I think the reason why they're going is for self-publicity. I think, Nigeria was almost like a dummy run. I think it was reasonably, it went without any problems, Nigeria.
Yeah, it was
received quite well, and, I think they came out with it with great confidence. But you mentioned about invites. I mean, it was the Vice President that has invited Harry and Meghan, and you do begin to wonder, could anyone now invite Harry and Meghan to come to their country and have a 3 or 4 day tour to add a little bit of royal stardust? I mean, anyone can now invite Harry and Meghan because we don't really know why they are going to Colombia.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that they must have been invited to other places as well, and they have clearly chosen to say yes to this. And as I said, it's not really clear why. I think, we've seen a little bit of negative coverage around the upcoming trip already. Some suggestions in some articles that they are being used as political pawns by the government. I mean, let's be clear. So this is a person who's spoken anonymously to the Mail on Sunday suggested that there might be the feeling of this, and this has been widely repeated. I'm not aware of anyone saying it on the record in Colombia, and I think it's quite difficult when you're here, and indeed when you're in America, to actually understand what the feeling is in Colombia about this visit, how interested people are, how aware people are of them, what the feeling is across the country, indeed if it's even the same across the country about this trip. But I think, members of the royal family have been to Colombia before, but of course, when a working royal goes, as Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, did last December, they are there representing a country, they're representing Britain. They have the input of the British Embassy and of other organisations like the British Council, and Sophie was out there doing work on behalf of the UN, the United Nations Women, Peace and Security Agenda. So she was affiliated with all these other organisations, and the itinerary was shaped collaboratively with the Colombian government, what they wanted to showcase and what the British Embassy, with all of their experience and knowledge on the ground, felt that it would be a good idea to highlight as well. And with Harry and Meghan's trip, what makes that different, because they're no longer working royals, is the fact that it's hard to see what level of input they or Archewell, who they're representing out there, can have had in the itinerary. Because what knowledge do they or does Archewell have? What independent knowledge do they have, or have they been given on what is going on in the areas that they're visiting? So has the itinerary been entirely shaped by the Colombian government, and has that made them vulnerable to these conversations, these comments that have been made? So I think that's what we talk about when we talk about the difference between what's different about it. When a working royal goes and when Harry and Meghan.
I've tried to speak to people connected with Colombia or in Colombia, and the gist I get is that this is a new government, a new left-wing government, and the Vice President has made this invite. I don't think Harry and Meghan, my latest information is they're not going to meet the President. There was talk about maybe a private kind of face-to-face meeting, but it's all on the strength of this Vice President. People in Colombia are, I'm led to believe, I'm happy to be corrected, they're concerned about the amount of money that's being spent. Colombia is not a rich country, a lot of money's being spent on security, and also people are treating it as a royal tour. People are seeing it as it's the King's son, it's Princess Diana's son. It's and these are the dangers, these are the pitfalls they might fall into, because it'll end up that it appears that they are representing the British royal family, and if things go wrong, then that's a real danger for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. So Harry and Meghan, we have this ongoing conversation about them, don't we? They've stepped back. They're no longer officially representing the royal family, but Harry is still the King's son. When they go out there and say things and do things, it can look very similar, even though the underlying purpose is very different. But the optics of it on the surface can look very similar to when they were working royals, and that can be confusing for people, and people will say, well, what they're doing and what they're saying can still affect how the British royal family is seen. And so this is an ongoing conversation. But yeah, you're right to raise the point, which is a good point about who pays, because of course when members of the royal family make overseas visits on behalf of the foreign and Commonwealth, with the exception of Commonwealth realms where King Charles is now also head of state, it's the British government who pays. They get the sovereign grant to pay for their travel, and the British government picks up the tab. So that's different now to Harry and Meghan going to Colombia. We don't know. They haven't said who is paying, but it seems more likely that it's Colombia who's paying than someone else. It's not clear, completely clear.
What do you think Harry and Meghan are hoping to get out of this trip to Colombia?
Well, I think that what I don't really understand is how this fits into their long-term purpose and the long-term purpose of Archewell. I think in a short term, you can see that there's going to be a huge amount of attention on this tour, and probably they feel that they want to highlight these areas that they've said, women's empowerment and the military community, and it all sounds, you know, like the intention is very positive. And I think they'll be hoping that they can shine a light on the things that they think are important. But as I said, if they haven't, how much independent control have they had over this programme, and how much knowledge do they have of the already, or have they been given independently of the areas and the projects that they're visiting? I don't get the long-term thing. I don't get that. You know, my personal feeling. Sorry, just to jump in, but I always felt that they work best when it's very clear what they're doing. And I think Invictus is the strongest example of that. People really understand what it is, what it stands for. It's an event as well as a community. And when they go out there and talk about Invictus, it feels very meaningful and very powerful, and it resonates with everyone.
Just finally on Colombia, we mentioned it earlier about the invite, and they could have. We don't know them. I've heard rumours about invites to other places. But when we look at Colombia, and I've been to Colombia, it's a lovely country. The people are wonderful. But when you look at the politicians, you know, that are involved, just a quick list. And I don't want to insult Colombia in any way, but Health Minister is under investigation for allegedly using planes during a campaign that's belonged to a convicted drug runner. Foreign Minister suspended alleged corruption. President's son charged with taking cash from drug traffickers. President's brother accused of seeking payments from a jailed drug dealer for judicial benefits. And the president himself faced allegations he cheated on his wife with a transgender TV host. They've got to be careful about what they're doing and who they're accepting invites. I mean,
yeah, I mean, we don't know
is North Korea going to invite them one day? I mean, what...
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But we don't know who they're going to meet, obviously. But I think, you know, I mean, Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh, I always struggled not to call her Countess of Wessex, but yeah, Duchess of Edinburgh, she met Francia Marquez, the Vice President, as well. But of course, she was there meeting her, representing Britain. And so it was very clear what Sophie represented, and it was not the interests of the Colombian government or the... you know, she was clear that she was representing Britain at that time, and I think that's what the working royals have. It's that their message, their purpose, their representation is very clear when they go to other countries. And with Harry and Meghan, it's not quite clear what Archewell's stance on lots of things is, you know, in the same way.
100%, totally agree with you. I'm seeing this as almost like when Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie would go abroad and do certain events and do speeches and try to do philanthropic kind of work. It feels like that they're just putting themselves into the celebrity sphere, but reminding everyone, hey, we are also royal as well.
But there's no doubt it will attract so much attention, and that's the thing, that it's like, what is the purpose of that attention, and how thought through is how that's being channelled, you know?
Yeah.